Ready? I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on prefixes and suffixes. So, we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on prefixes and suffixes. And before we start with our lesson on prefixes and suffixes, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 2. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of prefixes and suffixes. All right, so in our previous lesson, we also did prefixes and suffixes. So now we're going to have a continuation of prefixes and suffixes. And we said a prefix is a word, or not even a word, can either be letters or it can be a specific word that you basically write at the beginning of a root word or just in front of the root word, right? And then a suffix is a word that you put at the back or you write at the back of a root word. And a root word or a base word is a word that can basically stand on its own, right? So once you either add the prefixes, which is at the beginning of the base word or in front of the base word, or once you add the suffix, which is behind or at the back of the base word, and then the meaning of the word changes, right? So basically, base words, right, are words that can be combined with prefixes and suffixes, and they can also be used on their own. That is now a base word. So a base word, you can either create another word by either adding the prefix, or you can create another word by adding the suffix, right? Or when it comes to base words can basically, it can stand on its own. You can use it on its own, right? And then it will have its own specific meaning. So once you either add the prefix and then the meaning changes, right? Once you add the prefix to the base word, the meaning changes. Or once you add the suffix to that base word, then the meaning also changes um, of that specific word, right? And there we have a few examples of, let's say, unhelpful. So unhelpful, right? And if we look at the word unhelpful, so the base word that can basically stand on its own from that word which is unhelpful, it is help, right? So here we have the word unhelpful, right? So our base word over here is help, right? That is the word that can basically be used on its own, which is help. And then we have, remember we said a prefix you add in front of the base word or the beginning of the base word, which is un. So now it's almost like unhelp. That is when we add the prefix, and then the suffix is the word that we add at the back, right? Or after the base word, and that is full. So it's like saying helpful. That is now basically the base word plus the suffix. But now if we put all three together, which is your prefix, your base word, and your suffix, and then the word is unhelpful, right? So the base word is the word that can basically be used on its own. And then we have the prefix, which is un, and it goes before the base word. And then we have the suffix, which is full, and it goes after the base word. All right. So our prefixes and suffixes is a continuation of the previous lesson that we did. So now we're going on to using the prefix pre, re, and miss. So we're going to use the prefix pre, re, and miss, right? And sometimes knowing the prefix, right, will be able to help you determine what the meaning of the word is. So if you know the meaning of the prefix, then you'll be able to add it to the base word, and then you'll be able to create basically the meaning of what the base word plus your prefix is. It's like you will basically create the meaning, right? Based on your base word as well as either your prefix and your suffix. All right. So now we're going to use the prefixes pre, re, and miss, right? All right, let me just go back. I want us to go to year. All right, so now I first want us to go on to what a prefix is. So we said our chapter is prefixes and suffixes. Chapter is prefixes and suffixes. English language arts, grade 2, and the lessons that we are focusing on is to use the prefixes, which is pre, re, and miss. To determine the meaning of the word with full and less, and prefixes and suffixes review, right? And we are doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. So we're doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. And we already said that a prefix can be added at the beginning of a base word, right? And some common prefixes are, for example, some common prefixes are miss, pre, and re, right? So a prefix can be added at the beginning of a word, and then it basically changes the meaning of the word. That is why, in order for you to also, let's say, know the meaning of a certain word, it is also very good for you to know what the meaning of the prefix is, right? So the prefix pre, if we look at the prefix pre, are celebrating it on Saturday, then they can say you had a pre-birthday party, which means that you celebrated before your actual birthday, right? So a before, all right, which means that pre-made or pre means before. Then we have re, right? Then we have re, and re means again. So then we have re, and re means again, right? And if we look at the word do plus the prefix that we add in front of the word do, which is redo. So if we look at the word redo, then redo means again, right? It's to do something again. So you redo something, you do it again. Replay something, you play it again. Rematch, it's like having another match, right? Or having the match again. And then we have miss, the prefix miss, the word that we add at the beginning of a base word. And miss means either incorrectly or it means poorly, right? For example, misread means to read incorrectly. If we have a word maybe like misinformation, right, then it means that you maybe gave the incorrect information. Mistake, right? It means that something was incorrectly. Misguide, it's like you are not guiding people correctly, right? And then there are quite a few other words with the prefix miss. But the prefix miss, or the meaning of miss, or the prefix miss means it's either incorrectly or poorly. The prefix re means again, and the prefix pre means before. All right, so then we're going on to a suffix, right? So we made a few examples of prefixes. Now we're going to make a few examples of, we're going to look at a suffix. And a suffix can be added to the end of a word. So a suffix can be added to the end of a word. And then it also changes the meaning of the word. And the same with a prefix. It's just that a prefix gets added at the beginning of a base word, whereas a suffix gets added at the end of the base word or at the back of the base word. So the suffix full, right? So suffix full, it means full of. For example, colorful. So the meaning of colorful, right? So color, of course, it's like different colors, right? But if we say something is colorful, then it means that it is full of color, meaning it's full of different colors, right? Then we have the suffix, which is less or less. It's basically, it's written less, but the way you say it, it's like less. So the suffix less means without. For example, colorless means without color. And do you even see the difference in those two words? So suffix means, the suffix full means full of, and the suffix less means without. And we made an example of colorful or colorless, right? And colorful means it's full of colors, whereas colorless, which is more of a negative meaning, it means without color. So that is why we said knowing the meaning of the meaning of either the prefix or knowing the meaning of a suffix will help you to actually create the meaning of, let's say, the full word, which is also added to the base word. If we look at this example, right, of prefixes and suffixes, and we said it's a group of letters that is attached before and after the base word, right? And here we look at an example of unacceptable. So accept is the word that is our base word. Accept is our base word. Whereas un is our prefix that is added at the beginning or just before our base word. And then we have able or able is then added after our base word, right? All right, so now we're going to a+students.ca. And we're going to determine the meaning of the word with full or less. And we said full, the suffix full means full of, and the suffix less or less means without. And we said that a suffix can be added to the end or at the end of a word or after the base word. And then it also changes the meaning of the word. And knowing the meaning of a suffix or a prefix, or specifically a suffix in this case, will help you to determine the meaning of a specific word. All right, so what does restful mean? If full is full of, right? Then what does it mean when we say restful or I am restful? And restful can basically mean that you are just full of rest. You have rested well. It's like somebody would say you are well rested, right? So full of rest. And that is restful. We said less means without, right? So what does pointless mean? Pointless. If less is without, then what is pointless? All right, so then if less is without, then we can say pointless means that it is basically without point, right? Doesn't make sense. It's like somebody asking you, what is your point, right? So that is pointless. It is without a point. Like you're not getting to what you actually want to say. Jobless. What does jobless mean? Someone is jobless. Then what does that mean? And if someone is jobless, we can say they are without a job. They have no work. That is basically what jobless mean. Because remember, if you have a job, then it means that you have work, right? Or you go to work. But if you are jobless, then it means that you cannot go to work. You do not have a job. You don't have work. So that is basically examples of the suffix which is full and the suffix which is less. And we said full means full of, and the suffix less or less means without. And once again, knowing the meaning of the suffix will be able to help you understand the meaning of a certain word, especially when it's added to the base word. All right, so now we're going to our test. Where we going to determine the meaning of the word with full or less, right? All right, so what does soundless mean? Soundless. So soundless, is it full of sound or is soundless without sound? So soundless, is it full of sound or without sound? All right, so if we look at the word soundless, right? And then we can say soundless because less means without, so which means that soundless is without sound, right? Because remember we said less or less means without, and we said full means full of. All right. What does useful means? Useful. Useful is useful without uses or full of uses. So useful, is it without uses or full of uses? All right, so useful, right? Remember we said the word full means full of, so which means that we can say it is full of uses, right? So full of uses, and that is useful. What does moonless mean? Moonless. Is it full of moons or is it without a moon? Moonless. So full of moons or without a moon. And moonless, right? Because we said less means without, so which means that moonless means without a moon. What does colorful means? Colorful. Is colorful without color or is colorful full of color? So is colorful without color or is colorful full of color? And the word full, right? We said the word full means full of. So which means that we're going to say colorful isn't full of color. And that's colorful, right? Full of color. So now what does paperless mean? Paperless. Paperless. And remember we said that knowing the meaning of the suffix will be able to help you to know the meaning of the word. So is it without paper or full of paper? Paperless. And paperless means that it is without paper. because less or less means without. All right. So now we're going on to where we're going to have or do a review on the prefixes as well as suffixes, right? And once again, a prefix can be added to the beginning of a base word, right? And firstly, we see the base word is a word that can basically stand on its own. It also has its own meaning when it does stand on its own, right? And then with our base word, we have prefixes and suffixes. And prefixes are words that are added to the beginning of a base word, and suffixes can be added at the end of the base word. And the common prefixes that we made mention of earlier on in our lesson is miss, pre, and re. And the common suffixes that we made mention of is full and less. So basically, if we add both the prefixes to the beginning of the word, or we add the suffixes to the end of the base word, then it changes the meaning of the base word. So once you add it to the base word, then it changes the meaning to that word. So if we look at the meanings of the prefixes first, right? We said the meaning of miss is either incorrectly, right? The meaning of pre means before. The meaning of re means again. And then the meaning of full is full of. And then the meaning of less means without. And if you know the meanings of the prefixes, as I mentioned, or the suffixes, as I just mentioned, then it will be way easier for you to create meaning or try to make meaning once it is added to the base word. And once you basically change the meaning or create a meaning, or not even create, but you change the meaning of that word. All right, so now what does refill mean? Refill, right? Remember we said that, let me rather write it down. We said miss means incorrectly. We said pre means before. And we said re means again. And then we said full means full of, and less means without. So refill, if we look at the word refill, our base word is full, firstly, right? The base word is full, right? But now what does refill mean? And remember we said re means again, so which means that this means to fill again. Refill is to fill again. right? So you need to try and remember the meanings of these words. Like we said, miss means incorrectly, pre means before, re means again. The suffix full means full of, the suffix less means without. Thankful. What does thankful mean? There we added, so thankful. That's a suffix that was added. So the suffix full was added, and thank is the base word. And we said that full means full of, right? So thankful, which means that thankful means full of thanks. Full of thanks, full of, you are grateful, lots of gratitude that you're showing, right? So that is thankful. You are full of thanks. You're grateful. And prepay. Prepay. So what does prepay mean? Pay is the root word. Pay is when you go to the shop and you, for example, either give your money and then they give you the goods, right? And then pre means before. So pre means before. So now we want to know what is prepay. And prepay means before you pay, right? So prepay means before you pay. It's like before you pay, I need to think, was this really the stuff that I needed to buy? So prepay. All right, so now we're going to our test. And the test is basically a review on prefixes as well as suffixes. Prefixes, which we add at the beginning or in front of the base word, right? And suffixes we add at the end or at the or after, sorry, the base word. And we said our common prefixes were miss, which means incorrectly, pre, which means before, re, which means again, and our common suffixes was full, which means full of, and less, which means without. All right, so now what does retry mean? If you retry, retie, is it to tie again or you tie incorrectly? So is it tie again, the first option, or tie incorrectly, the second option? All right, so re means again, right? So if you retie something, that means that we tie again. It's like you're tying it again. So the first option was correct. So what does nameless mean? Nameless. Is it the action of naming or without a name? So nameless. Is it the action of naming or without a name? Nameless. Remember, we said that knowing the meaning of a suffix will help you to determine the meaning of the word, right? So, less means without. So, less means without. Only this word means without. But now, what does the full word means, which is nameless? Is it the action of naming or without a name? So nameless is without a name. So well done. Without a name is correct. So what does pre-make mean? Is it to make before or to make again? So pre-make, either to make before or to make again. So pre-make, is it to make before or to make again? And we can say pre-make because pre means before. So we can say pre-make means to make before. So make before. So what does misuse mean? Misuse. Remember, pre means before. Re means again. So misuse is misuse, use incorrectly, or the action of using. Misuse. It's like asking yourself, what is miss? And miss means incorrectly. All right, so miss, we said miss is incorrectly, which means that we can say misuse means to use incorrectly, right? All right, so we said a prefix is a word that is added at the beginning of a base word. A base word is basically a word that can be used on its own, and a suffix is a word that can be added at the end of a base word. So this is now the end of our lesson on prefixes and suffixes. Thank you very much for joining the class, and I really hope you're going to have a good day further. Oh, and I really hope you have a good day further, and also a happy Christmas. Goodbye.